Hello aspirants, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to the session on Current Affairs for Beginners. In this session, I am going to tell you about the terms, concepts, schemes and institutions that appeared in today's newspaper, that is 5th July 2018. Let me give you answers for yesterday's questions. The first question is, India enacted the Geographical Indication of Goods Registration and Protection Act 1999 in order to comply with the obligations to. At international level, we have TRIPS. This is an international agreement, that is international legal agreement between all the members of an organization called World Trade Organization, and under this TRIPS, Indian government enacted this act, that is GI of Goods Act 1999. So the answer is D, WTO, that is World Trade Organization. The second question is, consider the following statements regarding Asia-Pacific Trade Agreement. The first option is, it is a free trade agreement. Here you have to know the difference between free trade agreement and preferential trade agreement. In most probably these are same, but in preferential trade agreement, when compared to free trade agreement, you'll have a basket of goods that are listed and tax will be reduced, that is tariffs and non-tariff barriers are reduced only to this listing of items. So since this is a preferential trade agreement, this statement is wrong. And the second statement is, it is formerly known as Bangkok Agreement. This statement is correct. And the third statement is, Bangladesh, China, India, Laos, Korea and Sri Lanka are its member countries. This statement is also correct. So the answer is B, 2 and 3. The first article is, copyright treaties get cabinet note. In this article, we have to see this World Intellectual Property Organization. Before that, we have to see what is this intellectual property. That is intangible creations of human intellect. That is our intellectual property, that is our human intelligence. For suppose, if a person have written a book by using his intellectual knowledge, and we have this copyrights for this book, and we have patents if anyone invents anything new, or we have trademarks. All these trademarks, patents and copyrights comprises of this intellectual property. And now let us see what is this organization. This organization is one of the 15 specialized agencies of United Nations, and it was created in 1967 to encourage the creative activity and to promote the protection of this intellectual property throughout the world. And we have to see here two treaties, that is World Intellectual Property Copyright Treaty and World Intellectual Property Performance and Phonographs Treaty. What are these two treaties? These two treaties are for the extension of protection in this intellectual property field in the digital environment. That is, the first treaty, World Intellectual Property Organization Copyright Treaty, this came into force in 2002 and has been adopted by 96 contracting parties up to now, and this is a special arrangement under Berne Convention. For what this convention is? This convention is for the protection of literary and artistic works. That is, if a person is so intellectual in literary or artistic skills, this convention will protect them through copyrights also. And this treaty, that is World Intellectual Property Copyright Treaty, is for the protection of copyrights for, that is in digital environment. That is, World Intellectual Property Organization Copyrights Treaty came into force in 2002 and it was adopted by 96 parties, and it is a special agreement under Berne Convention, and this is to extend the protection of copyrights in digital environment. And the second one is World Intellectual Property Performances and Phonographs Treaty. That is, it will extend the same as this, but it will extend the protection to performers, that is, to actors, singers, or musicians, and phonographs, that is, sound recordings. This is also for the protection of these performers and phonographs in digital environment. The next article is NCLT verdict in Tata Mystery case on July 9th. In this article, we have to see this National Company Law Tribunal. Before that, we have to see what is tribunal, whether it has any constitutional provisions. Originally in the constitution, they did not mention anything about this tribunals. It doesn't contain any provisions. But through 42nd Amendment Act 1976, Part 14A was added into the constitution, and this says about tribunals. And in this Part 14A, we have two articles, that is 323A and 323B. To implement this Article 323A, the Parliament has passed one act, that is Administrative Tribunals Act 1985. And under this act, we have two authorizers, that is, we have two authorities, that is Central Administrative Tribunal and State Administrative Tribunal. At central level, Central Administrative Tribunal, and at state level, we have State Administrative Tribunal. For what these are? These are for the adjudication of disputes relating to either recruitment or conditions of services of persons for public services at central level, state level, local body level, or public corporations or public authorities. These tribunals for adjudication of disputes relating to recruitment or conditions of service of persons appointed to these levels. That is, this article empowers the Parliament, and this Parliament will take out any disputes relating to this service matters from civil courts or high courts, and it will place the disputes before these tribunals. That is, to reduce the overburden of the civil courts and high courts, we have tribunals. For these two purposes, we have administrative tribunals according to Article 323A, and for any other matters, we have tribunals under 323B. That is, for matters like taxation, foreign exchange, imports, exports, industrial and labor and land reforms, or matters relating to urban poverty, foodstuffs, any tenancy rents, or elections to Parliament and state legislatures, will have some tribunals other than this administrative tribunals, and these tribunals are mentioned under Article 323B. And the next thing we have to discuss is National Company Law Tribunal. This is a quasi-judicial body, and this body was established under Companies Act 2013. As we have seen, tribunal is for adjudication of any disputes, and this tribunal is related to disputes related to Indian companies. This was established on the recommendation of Justice Iradi Committee. And under this Companies Act, it has the power to deal with the matters that are either initiated before a company law board or pending before the board for industrial and financial reconstruction, or any matters pending before appellate authority for industrial and financial reconstruction, or any matters that are related to the mismanagement of company or any windings of companies, that is winding up of companies, or any disputes related to this or all these. It has the authority to deal with all these disputes under Companies Act 2013. Next article is Union Cabinet clears DNA profiling bill. First we have to see what is this DNA. We have cells, that is living cells in our human body, and all the cells comprises of tissues. And in each tissue we have a genetic material. We call this genetic material as DNA, that is deoxynucleoriboic acid. And in this DNA, we have some hereditary qualifications. That is, it will transform from parent to child. But every DNA of a person is unique. Except identical twins, every person DNA is different from every other person. So, we can use this DNA as identification tool to identify a person. And this is DNA profiling. And this is a method of isolating and identifying variable elements within this pair of DNA. DNA will be like pair, and in that pair they will identify and isolate some variable elements. This method of identifying and isolating is called as DNA profiling. And this method is utilized by police all over the world for full proof identification, because it is different for every person, and this is the exact identification for the police persons to identify a criminal. And let us see what is this DNA profiling bill. And this bill will do two things. First thing, it will allow the collection of samples from private parts of a human body for this DNA profiling. And the second thing it does, it preserves the data, preservation of data in a data bank. And this we call as National Data Bank. And this profiling is done through National DNA Profiling Board. Under this bill, this DNA data bank will maintain the records of samples found at either crime scenes or of suspects, offenders, missing persons, and volunteers. And this bill also says that no DNA laboratory can take DNA profiling unless and until if the DNA board approves. If it not approves, you should not take any DNA profiling. And if a foreign country requests for this DNA profiling, then that DNA bank will coordinate with CBI or any concerned department, then it will allows for this DNA profiling. And this bill also makes it clear that DNA profiles or samples should be kept so confidentially, and they should be used only for establishing the identity of a person and nothing else. And government investigation agencies and judiciary can take information from these data banks. Try to answer today's questions. The first question is, consider the following statements about National Company Law Tribunal. It is a quasi-judicial body. And the second option is, it was established under Companies Act 2003. The second question is, consider the following statements. World Intellectual Property Organization Copyright Treaty came into force in 2002. And the second option is, it is a special arrangement under Berne Convention. Thank you.